Some performances are felt, not seen. When Cynthia Erivo walked onto the Tonight Show stage with that regal presence and soul-stirring intensity that had made her Broadway's most powerful voice, nobody expected her to reveal the most heartbreaking chapter of her healing mission. Jimmy Fallon had planned an inspiring interview about Cynthia's latest projects and her journey from London to Broadway stardom. The audience was ready for the powerhouse vocals and emotional depth that always came with a Cynthia Erivo appearance. But what Cynthia was about to confess would silence Studio 6B and prove that sometimes the most important stages are hospital rooms where children who will never see light again can still experience the magic of Broadway through pure sound. The cameras were rolling, the audience already mesmerized by Cynthia's commanding presence, and then she spoke 13 words that changed everything. I sing musicals to kids who will never see light again because music becomes their vision. What came next wasn't just television. It was a revelation about darkness, hope, and the sacred power of theater to create worlds that exist beyond sight, touching souls that cancer has left trapped in permanent night. Cynthia Erivo had always been known for her transcendent voice and emotional authenticity. The British actress who conquered Broadway with raw talent, who brought depth and vulnerability to every role she touched. But what audiences didn't know was that Cynthia's understanding of performing for invisible audiences had been shaped by her own childhood experience with temporary vision loss due to illness, and that trauma had awakened a calling to bring Broadway magic to children facing the double tragedy of cancer and blindness. The Songs in Darkness performances had begun 7 years earlier, during a period when Cynthia was reflecting on her own brief experience with vision impairment as a child and how music had become her lifeline during those frightening months when she couldn't see. The memory of navigating the world through sound alone had given her unique insight into how children who had lost their sight experienced entertainment and emotional connection. When I temporarily lost my vision as a kid due to a rare infection, I thought my world had ended, Cynthia later explained. I couldn't read, couldn't see faces, couldn't experience visual art, but music became everything. It painted pictures in my mind, created entire worlds I could live in, gave me emotions and stories that didn't require sight. Pediatric cancers that affect the brain or optic nerves can cause blindness in children, creating a devastating double burden where young patients must cope not only with a life-threatening illness, but also with the sudden loss of their sight. These children face treatments in hospital environments they cannot see, surrounded by medical equipment they can only hear, often losing both their vision and their connection to the visual world of childhood. These kids are fighting cancer while learning to navigate a world they can no longer see, Cynthia said with obvious emotion. They're dealing with chemotherapy, radiation, surgical procedures, all while adjusting to blindness. Most entertainment requires sight, movies, books, even many games. But theater, real live theater, can be experienced entirely through sound and emotion. Cynthia's first encounter with a blind cancer patient had been through a visit to Great Ormond Street Hospital, where she met 10-year-old Marcus, who had developed blindness as a result of brain cancer treatment that had saved his life but destroyed his optic nerves. Marcus had loved movies before his treatment, Cynthia remembered with tears. His mom told me that he felt cut off from entertainment because everything required sight. Marcus said he missed stories, missed being able to escape into other worlds. That's when I realized that live theater could give him what recorded entertainment couldn't. The conversation with Marcus and his family had revealed the unique isolation that blind cancer patients experience. Not only were they fighting for their lives, but they had also lost access to most forms of childhood entertainment and distraction that could help them cope with their medical trauma. Marcus asked me something that broke my heart, Cynthia recalled. He said, can you tell me what Broadway looks like? I'll never be able to see it, but maybe I can imagine it if you describe it. That's when I realized these kids didn't need to see Broadway, they needed to feel it. Working with music therapists and child life specialists, Cynthia had developed an approach that brought full Broadway-style performances directly to the hospital rooms of blind cancer patients, creating immersive theatrical experiences designed specifically for children who would experience them entirely through sound, voice, and emotional connection. These aren't just songs, Cynthia emphasized. These are full theatrical productions adapted for blind audiences. I do character voices, create sound effects with my body, and simple instruments, tell stories through music that paint complete pictures in their minds. The kids become part of the performance, not just observers. Over 7 years, Cynthia's Songs in Darkness program had reached 68 children who had lost their sight due to cancer or cancer treatment. Each performance was personalized based on the child's interests, medical condition, and emotional needs, with shows designed to transport young patients to magical worlds that existed entirely in sound and imagination. I worked with this 8-year-old girl named Emma, who had gone blind due to brain cancer, Cynthia remembered with tenderness. Emma had loved Disney movies before losing her sight, but she felt like she could never enjoy stories again because she couldn't see the characters and action. Cynthia's performance for Emma had been a complete adaptation of The Lion King, with Cynthia performing every character voice, creating animal sounds, and narrating action in ways that built complete visual worlds in Emma's imagination. During my performance, Emma's face lit up like she was seeing everything I was describing, Cynthia said with obvious joy. She was laughing at Timon and Pumbaa's jokes, gasping during dramatic moments, completely transported to the Pride Lands. Her mom said it was the first time since losing her sight that Emma had been completely happy and engaged. The approach worked because it acknowledged that blind children could experience complete theatrical worlds through expertly crafted audio performances that engaged their imagination, emotions, and remaining senses in ways that created rich, memorable experiences. There was this 12-year-old boy named Oliver who had been a theater kid before cancer took his sight, Cynthia shared with emotion. Oliver's dream had been to perform on Broadway, but he felt like blindness had ended his connection to theater forever. Oliver's sessions had been particularly meaningful because Cynthia had not only performed for him, but had also taught him how to create his own audio theater experiences, showing him that blindness didn't end his relationship with Broadway. It transformed it. Oliver learned that he could create incredible performances using only his voice and imagination, Cynthia explained. He started writing and performing his own audio plays for other blind kids in the hospital. He realized that his blindness had actually made him more creative, more focused on the emotional core of storytelling. The most profound transformations happened when children realized that their blindness, while challenging, had also enhanced their ability to experience music and theater in incredibly deep, personal ways that sighted audiences might never achieve. Oliver is now 16 and attends a performing arts school for blind students, Cynthia said with pride. He's writing audio musicals and wants to create theater specifically for blind audiences. He says losing his sight taught him that the best performances happen in your heart and imagination, not just on stage. Several children who had participated in Cynthia's program had gone on to pursue audio arts, radio performance, or music therapy using their enhanced listening abilities to create entertainment and healing for others facing similar challenges. Tonight's appearance on The Tonight Show was supposed to focus on Cynthia's latest film projects and her upcoming Broadway return. Jimmy had planned to discuss her artistic choices, maybe get her to perform a song, definitely tap into the inspiring energy that made her such a compelling performer and role model. The interview had started with Cynthia's characteristic grace and power. She had shared insights about her current projects, discussed her approach to choosing meaningful roles, and demonstrated the magnetic presence that had made her one of theater's most respected voices. But when Jimmy asked about how Cynthia used her voice to reach different audiences and whether her performances had taught her anything about connecting with people who experience the world differently, something shifted in her expression. The question had been meant to explore her artistic philosophy, but it had touched on something much more personal that Cynthia had been considering sharing publicly for the first time. You know, Jimmy, Cynthia said, her voice taking on unusual depth, I learned as a child that when you can't see the world, music becomes your vision, and that lesson led me to the most important performances of my career, shows that happen not on Broadway stages, but in hospital rooms for children who will never see light again. The audience grew quieter, sensing that Cynthia was moving into territory that was more profound than her usual discussions about craft and artistry. It sounds like you have some personal experience with that, Jimmy said with genuine curiosity. Cynthia was quiet for a moment, her commanding presence softened by vulnerability. I lost my sight temporarily as a child due to illness. During those months, music became everything, my entertainment, my comfort, my connection to stories and emotions. That experience taught me something powerful about children who are both fighting cancer and learning to live without sight. The studio was completely focused on Cynthia's words now, the energy shifting from entertainment to something much more meaningful and personal. Cynthia, you're working with children who are both blind and fighting cancer? Jimmy asked softly. Cynthia's eyes filled with tears, a sight that was particularly powerful, coming from someone known for her strength and emotional control on stage. For 7 years, I've been performing Broadway shows for children who have lost their sight due to cancer or cancer treatment. These kids can't see movies or read books, but they can experience complete theatrical worlds through live performance designed just for them. The audience was completely silent now, witnessing a side of Cynthia Erivo that transcended her celebrity, the profound compassion of someone who had transformed her own childhood trauma into healing theater for the most vulnerable children. Jimmy, can I tell you about something that's taught me what theater really means? Cynthia asked, her voice growing stronger despite her tears. Please, Jimmy replied, clearly understanding that something sacred was being shared. Cynthia took a deep breath and spoke directly to the camera. I perform complete Broadway shows for blind cancer patients through my Songs in Darkness program. 68 children over 7 years who can't see but can experience entire musical worlds through voice and imagination. Jimmy's expression changed completely as he grasped what Cynthia was describing. You're creating Broadway experiences specifically for blind children with cancer? I'm proving that theater doesn't require sight, it requires heart, Cynthia replied with quiet conviction. These children experience stories more deeply than many sighted audiences because they listen with their whole beings, because music and voice create complete worlds in their imagination. Tears were streaming down Jimmy's face. Can you tell us about one of these children? Emma was 8 when cancer took her sight, Cynthia said, her voice becoming tender. She loved Disney movies before going blind, but felt cut off from stories afterward. I performed The Lion King for her, using only my voice and sound effects, creating the entire Pride Lands in her hospital room. Cynthia paused, gathering herself to continue. During my performance, Emma's face lit up like she was seeing everything. She was completely transported, laughing and gasping and living in that story. Her mom said it was the first time since losing her sight that Emma had been genuinely happy. How do these children respond to experiencing theater this way? Jimmy asked through his tears. They experience it more powerfully than most sighted audiences, Cynthia replied with wonder. Without visual distractions, they connect directly to the emotion, the music, the story. They become part of the performance in ways that are absolutely magical. The audience was openly emotional, many people crying as they witnessed this revelation about Cynthia's private work, creating Broadway magic for children facing the double trauma of cancer and blindness. Cynthia, how has this work changed your understanding of what performance really means? Jimmy asked. It's taught me that the most powerful theater happens in the imagination and heart, Cynthia replied with profound wisdom. These children showed me that when you perform for someone who can't see, every word, every note, every emotion has to be perfect because that's all they have. They made me a better performer by teaching me what really matters in storytelling. As the segment concluded, something unprecedented happened. The entire studio audience sat in profound silence for nearly 3 minutes before erupting in sustained applause that transcended appreciation. It was recognition of theater's highest purpose, acknowledgement that they had witnessed someone using their gift to bring light to children trapped in darkness. Cynthia's revelation became one of the most moving Tonight Show segments in the program's history, inspiring conversations about accessibility and entertainment, the needs of children with multiple medical challenges, and the power of live performance to create experiences that transcend physical limitations. Most importantly, Cynthia's disclosure had shown that sometimes the most important stages are not the ones with bright lights and applauding crowds, but quiet hospital rooms where theater creates vision for children who will never see again. Proving that the best performances happen not in front of audiences, but in the hearts and imaginations of those who need magic most.